What is going on? All right, friends, so over the course of the last handful of months, you've seen me out testing a wide variety of tents and so forth, and one that keeps coming up over and over again is Elk Mountain. I've tested a number of their bell tents. They make these things in 3 different sizes: 13, 16, and 20. Now, I've tested the 16 and the 20. I have to say the 16, which this is actually a prototype right behind me, has been my favorite. Mainly because of the size. It's just so convenient. You're talking about something that is 95 pounds. You know, funny enough, the first time I set this up, I think it took me 40 minutes. And while I didn't time myself yesterday, and I'll probably put some timestamps here, the setup has become an absolute breeze. And I'd be willing to bet 15-20 minutes it took me to get this thing up, because your guidelines are already on there and you have a cadence kind of figured out as you're putting these things up.
Hey there, this is Alex from the future. I'm editing this video, and I do want to clarify, it took me 14 minutes and 6 seconds to put this tent up. I figured I'd jump on camera because it's far less than the 15-20 minutes that I said that it took there. 14 minutes, 6 seconds. I'm pretty thrilled with that. But one thing I will say about this though, and I think I actually do cover this a little bit in the video, but I will cover it because many of you during the last video that I did on this, because I didn't show the setup, you guys were asking about how long does it take, what's involved in it, and how difficult is it? Well, these bell tents like this, they are actually really simple to put up. Elk Mountain really makes it easy as well. You have these big heavy spikes that you're putting in the ground. You actually have 2 separate types of spikes. You have the smaller spikes that go around the lower perimeter down near the base of the tent itself. You're going to put those down first once you lay out the tent. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take your center pole, put it up into the center of it there. The first time setting it up, it might be a little tight as the canvas still needs to stretch a little bit. Once you've done that, you're going to go around. Now, the first time that you're setting it up, you're going to tie on all your guidelines to all the points that they need to be on. And then from there, you have these longer, heavier spikes that you're going to put into the ground about a 45-degree angle, and then tighten your guidelines from there as you go around. It is that simple. It is very easy. Oh, you know what? Actually, I take that back. After you put your main center column up in there, you do have a frame, I'm not sure what they call it, that goes up above the door frame that goes there. You're going to put that in. Then you go outside, you put all your guidelines all in, going around and so forth. But these guys did a great job. Again, this is a prototype. And what excites me is, I think I mentioned this in the video here, these guys are really doing a lot with these bell tents, canvas wall tents. I mean, they've been around since forever with these wall tents, but these bell tents, they have a lot of really cool features that they're baking into these things. But at any rate, 14 minutes, 6 seconds. That's pretty darn quick.
Anyway, I'm going to turn around here. I'll give you some of the basic specs of this here, and then we'll talk into the details of this here. I'll show you my configuration, how I have it set up, and I'm going to let you know how it has held up over the course of the last handful of months. So again, this is their 16-footer. You know, you talk about 16 feet across, about 201 square feet. As I mentioned, 95 pounds. The main height here is 10 feet. You have a 5-foot door right here. These have one main door in the entrance. You have 1, 2, 3. You have 4 large windows, which, especially right now, because now we're starting to transition into the summer camping season. So this is actually the first time that we've gone out where we've used the diesel heater, which I'm going to dive into a moment here. Well, actually, we've been using that all winter, but also during the day we opened up the windows because I let some of that breeze come through, and these windows are absolutely amazing, perfect. So anyway, I like the 16 here because it's under 100 pounds. It's lightweight. It's easy to slam up and so forth. And don't get me wrong, the 20-footer goes up pretty darn fast as well. But this requires a lot less space. And the point in being is, this is one of those new spots you guys have seen me filming at a number of times recently. And I think the 20-footer, when you look at how the pitch that the guidelines come down, I think the 20-footer would be just a little bit big for this spot right here.
So on that topic of which size tent should you get, look, there's a few factors that go into it. First of all, budget. There is a little price difference between each one, whether it's 13, 16, 20. There's always a little budget thing that you need to factor in. Also, from a size standpoint, look, the 16-footer, we had 3 people inside of this here, and everybody was extremely comfortable. We had a couple chairs, a king camp table, and there's a lot of room inside of a 16-footer. Now, 20-foot, look, it's a Taj Mahal. It is huge. There is a tremendous amount of room in there. I've said this many times over and over again over the years. A tent, when you get out overlanding, camping, whatever you want to call it, having the right tools makes a world of difference of how much you enjoy getting out there. How much of those creature comforts can you bring with you will determine how well or how much you want to get out there. How much does your family enjoy getting out there with you? And size of a tent really does matter. I'm going to go with that. So this was the Elk Mountain does a extraordinary job with a lot of the bells and features that they put into these tents here. And one thing I do have to share with you, this evening, one of the evenings when we were out shooting there, had, many of you may know, I'm a landscape photographer, so I really get geeked out with a beautiful sunset. And of course, this evening here, I noticed above the mountain, you had these lenticular clouds that had created this really cool formation. And as the sun started going down, I'm going to share the photos here with you because, look, it looks amazing. You had these pinks, reds, and it looked absolutely remarkable. And then when the sun went down, most people would pack their camera away. That's the time where you stand your ground because as you're going to see, the blue hour was just as remarkable as well. Had to share these photos because, boy, it was a beautiful evening and it was a great time. But anyway, so I hope that answers many of the questions that you guys have been directing to us. What size of a tent should you get? Yeah, it depends on your budget. It depends on how many people. It depends on where you are at with how much space do you want when you go out camping and so forth.
Getting back inside, I have a queen size. This is the King Camp. This is a King Camp queen size cot, and of course, I'm using the Aeronaut. This is their brand new for this year black camo quilt. I have the Hex extra or the wide foamy mattresses. Actually, I use 2 of them here. These chairs are new. We just released a new article on best camping trips or camping chairs for 2026. I was using the front runners for a number of years and they finally gave way, and these new chairs I actually really like these. Picked up 3 of these buggers right here. Here's a newcomer to the batch right here. This is the Iceco 20 liter. This thing is doing exactly what you would want. It's small, convenient, and lightweight. We'll have an upcoming review on the EcoFlow. This unit has been an absolute blast. Now, as you'll find out, I've damaged this one, but it still works just fine. Late night, while we didn't use it last night, I had the Nebula 4K projector and so forth. And of course, the King Camp table. I've spoken about this over and over again. Absolutely love that. The lights. Okay, how I light this thing at night. You've seen me talking about these over the course of the last handful of months. These are the GoFlux. This is the 3-foot LED lights. These are awesome. So you can get different configurations and how you want to have these set up. But I have a 1-to-4 connector going in here, and although I disconnected this already, this goes down to my battery. You have a single switch, toggle switch that you can use to turn them on, and then of course you have these buttons right here which allow you to dim and also go through the different colors because it's red, amber, and white and so forth. And then you can dim it down low and otherwise turn it up high, and it does really amazing. These are just held on by magnets. I absolutely love that. So the magnets are an additional accessory. They just screw in onto the ends. The cool part with these is when you have a tent like these bell tents right here, as long as it has steel, the magnets can click to it, and also you can get Velcro configurations as well. Now, one of the things I am going to probably modify is I have these Velcro strips, and I'm thinking about putting it right on like a couple of the the main seams on the tent here. How cool would that be? And so, anyway, oh yes, actually, let me talk about the heating wise of this. So, okay, so last month I had introduced you guys to the Houswin Diesel Heater. This is a heater, self-powered, portable, and this thing is absolutely really cool. And so 2 weeks ago, Caleb and I went out and we set it up, let it run for the first time. So this has been now running 48 hours on its own. You know, these are the only the batteries that, you know, that are used to fire it up, and then the thing is it's self-powered after that. Now, in the last video, I had I've hinted to a number of you guys that we were continuing testing this and see does it do what it is supposed to do. Because when we went out last time, I had it running for just maybe about an hour or so. So now it's been running 48 hours, and I can confirm, indeed, not only does it keep the tent really warm at night and so forth, which is to be expected, but it does so under its own power. And then on top of that, what I've done here is I wanted to test the type A outbound charging on this here, or because it does create a little bit of a surplus energy that you can use. And these lights, they don't use much of any power. They've been plugged in the entire time, and I've been maintaining right around that 16.4 volts here. So it does a great job on that. Now I have noticed that there is no glitch with this in terms of, I'm happy to say there's no soot that comes out of this. You know, some of the heaters out there, they create this big pile of soot, and this thing burns really clean. I'm actually very happy with how this Houswin diesel heater has performed. And so, yeah, at any rate, has a gallon tank on it, but at night, you know, last night it dipped down into the high 40s. The night before it was low 50s. So in all reality, it's not terribly cold, but it does keep the tent where you want it in the mid 60s and so forth, which is really, really nice. But anyway, let's walk around this Elk Mountain tent. Actually, we'll start on this side right here. If this is your first video seeing on this Elk Mountain tent, I always recommend, because these don't come with a floor mat, so I would definitely encourage you to go out there. And this is the same mat that I use for all the tents. This was picked off of Amazon. I think it was a 20 by 20. And yeah, there's a bunch of holes you can see from previous tents. But it keeps, when I pack this away, now granted, this has gotten a little dirty and so forth, and it's to be expected, but it keeps it clean a little bit longer. So you pick up one of these tents, highly recommend go on Amazon or your local hardware store, just pick up a cheapo depot tarp like this, put it on the ground, and that's going to keep your tent a little bit cleaner longer. Anyways, on the outside, you have your stove jack, so you can, if you're in no burn ban area, you can actually use a wood stove inside of these things. And you can see it's a great looking tent, very large. Again, I've had, after the last handful of months of using this in all sorts of different weather, winds, I can tell you, and I will double down on this, from a wind standpoint, these tents do extremely well. And so the only thing I've had one of my stakes, actually I have two of these that have bent, and that's to be expected. I think I hit a rock with it, but anyway, the tent has held up really, really well. And another thing I would recommend, you get one of these tents, or a wall tent, or any tent for that matter, get one of these grass mats. You don't need to go out there and buy one of these. This was a company down in San Diego that makes these things. Honestly, you can go to Home Depot and just get like a patch of AstroTurf, and that's going to do exactly what you want. But at any rate, and that's going to keep inside of your tent a little bit cleaner, a little bit longer. So fast forward to where we are right now. After 3 months of pretty heavy use, especially on the 16 footer right here, This thing has held up really, really well. But anyway, friends, that's it. So many of you have asked, how has this 16-footer, how have these elk tents held up over time and so forth? So 3 months fast forward, it has done an extraordinary job. Super happy with this tent. Now what I'll do is I'm going to put some links down below over to Elk Mountain. You can take a look at all their bell tents. They actually have a ton of different canvas tents over there. And as I mentioned, hint, hint, they have some cool stuff coming around the corner as well. And I will also link over to the Houswin Diesel Heater, so you can take a look at that, Ice Co, and some of the other items that I've shared with you how I set up this tent as well. Now, if there are any equipment or items that you would like to see us review in the future, let me know in the comments down below. But friends, that's going to wrap up this video. As always, it is great to see you. I'm going to be shutting up the cameras, and I will see you in the next video.